Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hey Joe Show. That was neat.
I forgot what I was going to say because I'm thrown off by, was that music on purpose or was that an accident?
No, that was an accident. That's called We Switch Sides of the Studio.
No, I did that on purpose so you could have a little extra boost of music.
Oh, absolutely. I did that on purpose so that you could have an extra boost of music.
There you go.
That makes sense.
That works.
Hey, welcome tonight. We are doing something brand new for us here at the Hey Joe Show. We are going live on YouTube. For those of you who are watching this live, or you will watch this after the fact at the Hey Joe Show, that is where you will be able to find the YouTube feed for the Hey Joe Show. That kind of makes sense, right? What's the YouTube feed? The Hey Joe Show. I mean, that makes sense, right?
Sure.
It does, yeah.
Makes sense. Total sense.
Well, we are glad to be obviously going live on Facebook as we have, but also tonight on YouTube. So we want to welcome those of you who will watch this on YouTube. And, of course, we always want to thank those who are joining us via Facebook Live tonight. And, of course, tonight we are carrying through our theme of intentionality. And before we do that, though, we want to always make sure we mention the people over at
the Light Network.
The Light Network,
Yay.
and you just made
made
it red.
Wow,
that was impressive.
Screamed. I'm so sorry.
That was impressive, but you did it anyhow. The idea is,
sorry,
we're learning new mics. So for those of you who have no clue what's going on, we switched sides of the table, and we
but I think
did
I want
so
my side back
because this is my better side.
Yes, that's exactly
for those
why.
of you who are watching this, you're going, man, that is his better side. Here's the good news. When you're round, you have no bad side. It's all the same, right? And so tonight, we switched. We'll say it's because of my good side. However, if somebody wants to switch back.
I don't know. I think I'm going to switch back.
Then we will let her switch back, and I will go back to my other good side. So, but anyhow, hey, let's get on with the show, right? They didn't tune in to hear us talking about, do we have good sides or bad sides?
Oh, our poor friend Jay Zip. He said he's slowly dying of shingles. He's not.
What?
He's not feeling so awesome.
Man, come on, brother. I didn't know that. We'll be praying for you. I really didn't know that, man. Sorry about that. I would say it's your wife's fault, but I can't blame her for that one, I guess.
Oh, that would be me.
Well, if you knew Jay Zerp and his good wife there, you would understand they like to play with each other and shoot things at each other. Right. That's what I mean. And so that's the only reason I say that. But we will keep you in our prayers definitely for a speedy recovery. But thanks for tuning in for a little bit tonight with us. So getting on with intentionality, right?
That's what we're doing.
Is that what we're here for, right? Okay, so thinking about this issue, it's hard to believe this is the 10th episode for this season already. And we have dealt with so many topics. Eventually, towards the end of the season, you're going, now, what are some of the topics that we could deal
that we
with?
can be intentional about?
After all, we've dealt with everything. And then all of a sudden, you step back and you start looking at the scriptures and you start thinking a little bit and you're going, wait a second, we haven't done everything yet. We've only basically touched the hem of the garment because there's so much that could be said on this idea of living a purposeful life. And so tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to dive in to a subject about intentional words and intentional speaking and how God really does have an expectation for us that we must be purposeful even in the way that we talk.
Did you tell me that we were doing intentional words?
I did.
Are you sure you didn't change it on me?
I did.
What
do you think we were doing? What did you research tonight, just so I know?
Well, let me give you this long list that I researched. I'm just saying, I don't think you told me it was intentional words.
I did. But you know what? If you want to do another subject, we'll change it right here on the fly. What do you think?
That'd be a big negative.
All right. Well, just throwing that out your way. Throwing that your way. But here's the deal with intentional words and intentional speak. I don't know.
Intentional speak.
Intentional speak. That's right. Versus unintentional speak, which is what some people would love to say happens when they talk, right? I didn't mean to say that, right? Now, sometimes things come out of my mouth that I really don't mean to say. Like I may call somebody by a different name, or I might have I don't even know, like I say a word, but it's not the word that I meant to say, but it's a real word instead of just a word that sounds like I made it up, right?
I have no idea what you're saying.
Well, the idea is this: it's possible that things can be unintentional with what we say, but here's the deal: those things that are unintentional, maybe you call, your child. Let's say you're wanting to call your son, one of your sons, but you call them by the wrong name, right? Let's say you're wanting to call Camden, but you call Camden Colton. Right, and you're
that never
I didn't intend.
Happens because I always get my kids' names
always right.
correct.
I grew up in situations. Sometimes we had cats or pets of some sort.
You were called the cat's name,
and sometimes the role would be called, and the cat would be included before you would get to the name of the
Our kids
child.
don't really like it when we call the wrong name. You'd think we've done something pretty horrific.
Right. So here's the deal. Let's face it. All of us have said some things that were unintentional, right? But here's the deal. Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. God, when it comes down to it, the things that we're talking about as being unintentional, those are incidental things. However, there are some things that come out of our mouth that are supposed to be of an intentional nature, and we're supposed to guard against saying certain things of a nature that would violate what God's will is for his people, right? So here's the start off for tonight. Do you know that there is a rumor going around amongst research, whether it is or not? And I'll say a rumor and I'll tell you why.
Going around. Okay.
I'll tell you why.
I'm intrigued.
That women speak on average 20,000 words a day.
Okay.
Whereas men, different studies, men would speak either 13,000 words a day or 7,000 words a day.
Well, that's number one. That's a big difference. Yeah. And number two, they didn't interview Joe.
Well, because Joe, unless it's on Sunday, I don't speak a whole lot.
What?
You think I do?
You're not telling.
Whatever.
No,
I'm telling the truth.
I'm not going to say that you're not telling the truth. I'm going to say that you're not.
I'm not going to say you're lying, but I'm going to say you're not being forthcoming.
That's exactly. I think you're disillusional. That's what I mean.
Whatever.
Wait, is that the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. Were you intentional with that or unintentional?
I was absolutely intentional.
Okay, just checking. But the idea behind that is, you look at that and you think, man, that's a lot of words. Now, here's why I say the rumor, right? Because other studies have been done that say there's really not a lot of difference between how much women talk and how much men talk. And then there's other studies out there that say that there's something in a woman's brain that is the reason they talk more, and whether or not that's true or not.
Okay, what does that even mean? There's something in a woman's brain?
Something called like FOXUP5 or something like that. That doesn't really matter to most
like
people.
Fox News or no?
Yeah, like Fox News. It doesn't matter to most people. However, other studies will say that basically there is no difference with how much people talk. Right? Men or women, however you look at that. So here's the deal. The other studies would say that everybody basically talks 7,000 words in a day. Now, here's the question. Of those
Wait a minute. Wait. You said women talk 20,000, men talk 7 to 13,000, and everybody else talks 13.
Yeah.
What? I mean, 7,000.
Everybody who's not
everybody
a man
else,
or a woman.
Is that the dog?
Yeah, the dog.
The dog that, you called their name instead of your kids.
That's right. Everybody except men and women speak 7. No, the deal is the 20,000 is what is speculated. Okay. Other studies will say that there is no difference between what men and women speak. Okay, so here's the dilemma. It's not whether men speak more than women or women speak more than men, although I think we know the answer to that, right? Amen, men.
Joe.
Amen,
Joe speaks
men.
the most. It's Joe.
But the idea is this. What are you saying with those words? That's what's important. And when you really think about you are in charge of the words that come out of your mouth, then you really have to start looking at it from the standpoint of, why am I saying what I am saying? Why am I speaking the way that I am speaking? Why am I phrasing it the way that I'm phrasing it? And why am I using tone and inflection in the ways that I am. You just kicked me. Why did you kick
I
me?
mean to kick you. I'm not used to being on this side of the table. We're switching back next week for
Let me
all of
tell
you
you,
that don't even watch this,
it's
that listen
abuse.
to it. You'll be able to hear a difference with us on the different
It's
sides of the table.
abuse is what it is.
No, it's not.
No, here's the deal. I'll turn to, for instance, right?
Okay,
for
back
instance,
to the Bible.
Colossians chapter 3, the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Colossae, he says this in verse 8. But now you also put them all aside: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and then the New American Standard says abusive speech from your mouth. And then it says, do not lie to one another, since you laid aside the old self with its evil practices and have put on the new self, who is being renewed to a true knowledge according to the image of the one who created him. So in other words, the speaking idea is directly tied to your conversion, whether or not you are a Christian or whether or not you're still operating in ways that were consistent with before you became a Christian. And here's one of the things that comes out of that. Colossians chapter 3 deals with the subject of abusive speech. Now, I have a nifty little program pulled up here that lets me get behind what that is. The New King James says filthy speech, or filthy language is what it will say. It'll also say blasphemy. It'll say malice. It'll say anger, and it'll say wrath. But the filthy language aspect is vile conversation. Shameful words that come out of a person's mouth, implying that a person who has been redeemed by Christ should never utter improper or filthy words which he may have uttered in his life of unbelief. A Christian ought to have a changed vocabulary, and the geniusness of one's Christianity can be discerned by his vocabulary. So therefore, according to that, you can show you're a genius.
You're a genius.
Right, and I don't know about all that.
So, Jonathan, our friend, who's not doing well with the shingles, he says that his boss always says it's better to speak when you have something to say rather than when you just want to say something.
And that's a great point because, and here's the deal, it's another way of saying choose your words wisely, and if you don't have positive things to say, don't say them. Does that mean, I have to compliment you every time? But it's like, if you don't have anything constructive to say
Goes back
here,
to the old saying, if you don't have anything nice to say,
don't say anything at all. That's right. But, when you really start looking at the fact that you do have so many words that you use in a given day, and that there is some instruction.
Joe uses a lot more than the average male.
Ephesians chapter 4 deals with that as well, in the way that the Gentiles obviously used to walk, and therefore that walk involved the way they would talk. And then down in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 and following, there's the walk that is according to Christ. Colossians chapter 3 deals with this idea that there was a way that was spoken, that you talked and you act and you behaved when you were in the old self, is the way that the letter there would say that, versus the new self. And so the idea behind that is this: if I am supposed to have changed, then how does that affect my speech? In other words, what if I get mad? If I get mad, is there a way that a Christian is supposed to speak and a way that a Christian is not supposed to speak? And what if I just use, I guess you would say concepts of, well, I can't help it. That's just how I get when I get mad. Or you needed to hear that. No. But here's the truth. We know individuals.
I thought you were actually asking a question.
Well, yeah, I am, but all I got from you is boo and hiss.
I know, because that's my way of saying no.
Well,
no, that's not what you do.
But why not? Because here's the deal. I mean, after all, when I get angry, can't I just say what comes to my mind? I mean, don't we log that under I'm just being honest?
Always.
I mean, isn't that not how we log that? And so the idea of our speech being
typically
with grace, or our speech being seasoned as with salt, not to be salty like get in your wound and rub salt in the wound, but the idea is that our speech in multiple places, what I see when I study this in the text, is that I see that there's a way that those people talk who are not Christians, and then there's a way that Christians talk, and they're not the same. And then there's this idea of the deeds of the flesh and the emotions of the flesh, And even though I have to battle against that as a child of God, I am still required. I have a different standard that I live up to, because my standard is God's standards, not just whatever comes out of my mind. Whatever thing I think I want to say
comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, whatever comes out of your mind comes out of your mouth. Yeah. What? Did I miss something?
I don't know.
You're not
you
paying
look like
attention.
you're trying to process. Yes, okay. I was trying to help clarify.
Oh, I didn't know if I said something that I did not mean to say. It was unintentional.
No, I'm not.
You see that?
Unintentional. Because we're talking about intentionality.
That's right.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't clarified. I was just exaggerating your point.
Huh.
I have to say something, since when I try to make funnies, you just ignore me.
No, I'm not trying to ignore you. I guess I'm just on a roll, and sometimes I don't realize.
And sometimes you just roll over.
Sometimes I do roll over.
That's
right.
Like, let's go.
So I guess what I'm getting at is this: if I'm supposed to be intentional in my speech, at what point in time do I have to deal with my emotions? So that I am intentional.
Having said that, the segue into a perfect comment here says Jesus was upset in the temple and still never sinned. Talking about dealing with our emotions. Perfect segue.
That's right. Segue.
Hey, have you ever been on a Segway before?
Yeah, I'm not sure
fun.
what we're going to talk about riding around on those things.
You knew I was going to do that, though, because you paused and you waited for me to bring up the
I was waiting to see what you
Segway.
would do. I was just curious what you would do with that. But anyhow, the idea behind that is, yes, sometimes the tie between, I guess you could just say, being loose with our tongue, letting words just fly out of our mouth, is because we do let our emotions override our devotion to God. And I don't know how to say that. And what's interesting to me is the excuses that even we as Christians make when we do that. We will say things such as, they had it coming, or I'm mad, and when I'm mad, this is just the way that I get, forgetting that there's actually accountability before God for the words that come out of our mouth. And I'm not just talking whether we have cuss words come out of our mouth. I'm talking words of hate, words of slander, words of injury. All of those words, those concepts, we have the power within those 7,000 words to use those. But the question is, am I using those even in my speech for God's glory to help individuals come back to the Lord? Or am I just expressing emotions that I let run away with me? I saw we had a couple comments. Somebody giving us a shout out.
Well, hang on. It just came. You must have got it before I did. It just came through. Let me read.
See, on my iPad over here, it gives me the accurate count. The most heads up.
Oh, so you're saying your computer's better than mine?
Am I being intentional in that? No, but if that's what you heard, I'm so sorry.
Okay, you can buy me a new computer.
Nice.
He says God is omnipresent, so watch what you say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I guess that's it. Is the idea is if we're supposed to change, then that means even in our speech, right? So here are some things that we're going to look at in the remaining few moments of the show.
Okay, but before you get there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just said something about you're supposed to change, you change in your speech. For those who have been Christians a long time and who are supposed to have a pattern of better speech, sometimes I think it can be reversed, and the longer you have been a Christian, the easier it is to get more upset and how am I trying to put this? Not maybe loose as in swear words, but get more frustrated and loose in maybe just the angry words you use. Not necessarily swear words, but...
So why do you think that's the case? I mean, that's a great observation. Why do you think that might be the case in your eyes?
Well, now I didn't say I had an answer for that. I just had an observation.
All right. So those of you who've been Christians for a long time, you have worse mouths than others.
Well, no, I didn't say everybody.
I know.
I said, but there's a flip side of that coin. Not just those that are new Christians that need to change. Those maybe that have been Christians so long that's like, well... I don't know, almost been a pattern of I'm irritated, I'm angry, and so, because you don't have that newness that you're thinking about it as often as, oh, this is a transformation because you've been transformed for a while and you start slipping into other patterns.
Well, I think your statement there just brought it back up is this, that sometimes your Christianity can become so old hat that you actually start diving back into the world that you were supposed to be transformed out of.
There you go. See, you said it more
It's
quickly, concisely, and
well,
eloquently
I don't
as I
know.
was struggling to get it out.
It's like the idea of individuals who think they're saved, individuals who think that they've got it all together, that there's this sense of security that they don't believe that if they go back in their anger and they go back in their malice and they go back in their gossip or they go back in their lying or they go back in any abusive speech or filthy language, that that God is just going to say, "Oh, you were baptized at one time. You're good."
Right. And we have another comment here. It says, and we should hide the word in our hearts, so even with anger, improper speech should never come out of our mouths. What goes in will come out.
Yeah, and Jesus would teach that from an action standpoint in
Right.
Matthew chapter 15. And so you're absolutely right. I find it quite interesting. James chapter 1 and verse 19, which this is the passage that the writer here by inspiration of the Holy Spirit says, but everyone must be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. I find it quite interesting that oftentimes we neglect passages like that when it comes to controlling our speech because we believe that if I think it, I should have the right to say it.
You
Now,
mean I don't?
no. I mean, there's a lot of things that men would maybe say that they think that they cannot say to, let's say, for instance, their wives, right?
For instance.
For instance,
We're just going to
because
throw that one out
let's
there.
just go there since we did, and this is
Oh.
entertainment. But let's pretend by some chance maybe there was a meal that was cooked.
And I'm not liking the way this is going. Okay.
All right, I need some
right,
back
let's
here,
see.
men. I need some backing here.
Let's see.
The idea, though, is this: if things maybe come to your mind and you feel like you want to express that, what I would offer to you is this:
Don't.
there are times that maybe you should not verbally express everything that comes to your mind. That it's okay to kind of just let it settle in there without opening your mouth and letting that out.
Are you thinking of anything in particular?
No, I am
right
not.
now?
But
No.
here's what I do know. Once that comes out, it is impossible for it to go back in. It's the whole concept, the object illustration of when you squeeze the toothpaste out of a tube of toothpaste and then you try to put it all back in, you will never get all of the toothpaste back in the
I don't know
tube.
that I've ever heard that analogy before.
Really?
Never.
Well, welcome to the Hey Joe Show.
Well, there you go. Hey, we have another comment.
Yep.
Our friend Steven Lindenberger from Ohio
Hey, buddy.
says we have to be careful to not be too comfortable. That's when Satan moves in for the strike.
I agree. We even have talked about that, in our studies that apathy really is scary when you start to think about it. And apathy is not, I'm going to go out and purposely commit these sins and do these actions that I know violate God's will. Apathy is where you stop caring. Apathy is slow over time. Some may say it is
Where
desensitizing
you
yourself
don't
to
even
Christianity.
notice it's happening.
No, and this is like the illustration that I'm sure you haven't heard of either. The
Hey,
frog,
only the toothpaste one.
the frog
I've
that's
heard of this
swimming
one. I know
in
what
the
you're gonna
water,
say.
right? And then they put the water on a fire, and the water starts heating up. The frog's still swimming around because he's become acclimated to the temperature, and before too long, the frog is boiled. Right, and the idea is, well,
Poor
how did that
frog.
happen? Poor frog, you're
Oh,
going to
no,
cry.
I can't even go on the show. I'm crying about the frog.
Those of you who love frogs, I just ruined your evening, I know. But the idea behind that is this. Stephen was correct. You can become so relaxed and apathetic that you no longer guard. You see, we talk about what the book of Proverbs chapter 4 says about guarding your heart, for from it flow the springs of life. But have you ever thought about the idea of guarding your tongue? And of course, James will talk about that. the impact of the tongue and the speech. We'll talk about the idea that out of the same mouth will go cursings towards men, but praises and blessings towards God.
Ooh, I know this. See, I've studied it.
Yeah.
It's like the wheel of fire, and it starts like a fire wherever it goes. You start the words, and it's like that wheel of fire, and as the wheel goes, the fire just keeps going and catching and going and
Right,
going,
and
and
spreading.
there's long-lasting effects.
Right. And so the idea behind this is that if I have the potential to have such an impact for good or for bad, then doesn't it stand to reason that I should be intentional with my interactions? Doesn't it stand to reason I should be intentional with my words? I mean, if I'm supposed to really consider what my goal of helping you get to heaven and helping those people that I encounter get to heaven, and you likewise for me, then there comes a point in time that I've got to consider those words. Now, what I want to be fair and say is this: that doesn't mean that when one needs rebuking that you don't rebuke, or when one needs exhortation that you don't exhort. Obviously, by inspiration of the Holy Spirit, we would see the biblical writers do that at times in their written words, right? And we know that obviously there was instruction for the benefit that the scriptures were there with those intents, those purposes. So it's not that there won't be those moments, but I would offer this to you. Even in those moments of rebuke or those moments of exhortation or those moments of correction, that there's still an intentionality. In other words, it's not a matter of, well, I can say whatever I want because you need to hear it because you're living this way and you're living that way and I'm upset at you, so I'm just going to say it and it's only for your benefit.
You're never allowed to do that unless it's Erin telling Joe.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's the way we roll here on the Hey Joe Show. Anyhow, the idea behind that is this.
That's wrong.
Even in your correcting, you are supposed to be intentional. Because if you forget what your purpose is and you forget where you're going, then you're not going to be purposeful even in your speech to get there. So the idea is this: you want to go to heaven and you want to take as many people there with you as possible, and your goal is to glorify God. So my question is, how are you glorifying God with those 7,000 words that you're speaking?
Yeah, and the key comment here is the key is that it's all done in love.
Because that's motivation. That's reasoning. Right? And so if I correct you, but I know it's done in love, now here's some things that are going to come out of that, right? Because here's the way sometimes that goes. I'm yelling at you and using these words at you because I love you and you just need to hear this. And that's not love. That's not love. Love is your motivation. But love does not dismiss your intention. So I agree that it must be done in love, but here's the hard part. You ready? If I don't know you love me before you use words that we would say are of rebuking nature or of an exhorting nature, then why would I conclude that you love me when you use those words? So it really is the idea of this: I better build my relationship first before I use those words or speak in such a manner. So yeah, you can come down hard on your kids, but if you haven't developed a relationship with your kids, then your kids aren't going to hear what you hope they hear. And your correction is not going to go in the direction you hope it goes. So it really is about building that relationship first before you can say that. And I would say this: you've got to be intentional about that too. That doesn't just happen.
Wait a minute. Are you talking to me specifically or you in general?
You in general, but if a shoe fits, no. Obviously, we're speaking to a wider audience, the Hey Joe Show audience. Have I mentioned we're on YouTube? I don't know if we've even mentioned that yet. Those of you who are just joining in, I said this at the top of the hour. One of the neat things that we've been working towards here at the Hey Joe Show is creating a YouTube channel. And so what I need you to do, even though you may watch this on Facebook Live, I really need you to go to YouTube and subscribe to the Hey Joe Show. That's the way we're going to go live every time that we go on Facebook, but also YouTube. And YouTube will allow us to reach a market that I guess is larger than what we would only reach with Facebook Live. So the channel name, Jay Zerp, is called The Hey Joe Show. That's where you'll find it. The Hey Joe Show. And if you can't find it there, look for Big, Bald, and Beautiful Joe Wells. Actually, don't do that. I just made that up.
No, you didn't just make that up.
No, the channel. The channel's name, not that. Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. You're looking right at me. That's obvious.
No comment.
But the idea is this. We need you to go over to YouTube. So anyhow, I don't know what we could say. I mean, eventually you say everything you need to say. But
eventually you do. And I think we're like right at 30 minutes. So
how about that? How did we
now would
manage
be
to
the
do
time
that?
for me to cut you off.
Well, were there any comments that came through when it comes to being intentional with our speak, how we let our emotions get the best of us? The idea of accountability with our speech.
I think we got to all of our comments that were directed towards the subject of intentionality with our words.
Okay, very good.
Jay Zerp says, you're beautiful.
Of course I am, man. I hope you really get to feel better. We're going to keep you in our prayers. I would love to think he was
talking about me, but I think he's talking about you.
Well, that would be
weird.
Weirdo.
That
would be weird.
Well, yeah, and it's not weird that he's talking about you.
Because I'm a guy. I'm a dude, I guess, right?
Yes.
Anyhow, that's all we're going to end it. Those of you who are joining us on YouTube,
the lighting in here is really good tonight.
Is my skin better? Is my skin much better?
Anyway, what a great show.
Whatever. Hey, guys, we want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Hey Joe Show. We want you to keep the comments coming because we're going to check them out here on Facebook, and we'll check them out there on YouTube.
Your comments. They're the
so
best.
We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to see you engaged. And so don't ever hesitate to even after the show fill in some comments, write us. We'll make sure we read it. We'll write you back.
And even though it'd be nice if you were engaged to be married, we'd rather you be engaged in the show. But boom, ching.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful.
Aaron, you got some really good one-liners. Let me tell you.
I'm not a jokester.
You got some really great one-liners. Anyhow, it's good to be with you tonight. Don't forget to check out the guys and girls over at thelightnetwork.tv. They have a wonderful family of podcasts there. Aww. I've mentioned them. I've had people from across the world literally asking about Christian podcasts, and I direct them there. You're going to find all kinds of episodes. You're going to love it. And of course, like our page on Facebook, that's where you're going to get the most up-to-date information from Kyle Publications as well as about the Hey Joe Show. And go to our website, kylepublications.org. That's where you'll find resources that you can use for your family or for your home congregation.
Wonderful.
Or
wonderful.
for,
wonderful resources.
Just wasting your time.
No.
No, not wasting your time.
That was terrible.
That's all I have to say, Erin. You got anything?
No, other than our sign looks crooked.
It does, but we'll try to get that fixed. All right, we are out.
Please hang up and try again.